The purpose of this podcast is to shine a light on those leaders who are truly authentic leaders, those leaders who understand the need for transformation of culture and leadership in our beloved auto industry. And I used to say at the beginning of the podcast that they're hard to find, but they are out there. And I look hard for these leaders and I shine a spotlight on them and we ask them all the questions on this show. Every once in a while, a name comes up periodically. When I am in OEM circles, there's a name that kept coming up over the last, I would say, 3 years, and it was somebody I had never heard of, and that is Kim Less. This name kept coming up, and the way people talk about her and her leadership, she's that kind of leader that you want to work for. You know, that kind of leader that's got your back, the kind of leader that challenges you, but you feel safe with, the kind of leader that when they move to another company, you get that phone call and you just don't even hesitate, right? You're in whatever they're doing. She's that kind of leader. So it gives me great pleasure to bring on the show today Kim Less, and Kim did not know anything about that intro. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Doing great today, Jan. How are you? And thank you for the
Good.
intro.
Did that surprise you?
It did. Very kind words. I appreciate it very much.
But so true, though. Oh, I mean, your name kept coming up, and I was thinking, who is this Kim Less person? How do I not know this person? Well, Kim, you are indeed Vice President of Aftersales at Nissan in North America, a position that you've had for many years. You've seen some career progression at Nissan, but before that, you worked at GM, and you started at Saturn, which is a great place to start in the auto industry. So my opening question for you, Kim, as is always, who are you, Kim Less, as a leader?
When I think about my leadership style, I always come back to some writings from Danny Meyer. You may or may not be familiar. Danny Meyer, several years ago, wrote about this, and it's resonated with me, and it reminds me of myself. I remember talking to my mentor about this when I first read this. So he has this philosophy called constant, gentle pressure when it comes to a leadership style. And it's really me. It really does engulf my style. So by constant, look, I'm very persistent. I bring a lot of energy and accountability. People tell me, you have a great memory. You don't forget anything. So I'm always constant with the team. And then gentle. Look, I lead with empathy, empowerment, collaboration. I'm very supportive of my team, have their back, so to speak, as you said earlier. And then pressure. Look, I want to win as much as anyone. So the pressure is always there, right? But the right kind of pressure, that pressure that leads with urgency and support and fighting spirit. We're in it together as a team. Let's win. So those words describe me as a leader. And again, I'll give Meyer some credit because he summarized all that into constant, gentle pressure. And that's how I lead. That's who I am.
I had never heard that before, and I absolutely love it. And here's a couple of reasons why. When we use the term gentle, that in automotive terms is typically associated with being soft or weak. And it's not. It is actually a sign of strength. So when we see leaders in senior level positions, particularly at an OEM, who are proud to use that term to describe their leadership, that speaks volumes for the culture. And the same is true for pressure. Sometimes people think pressure is aggressive. It's too much pressure. But when you balance it out with that word gentle pressure, and then you add in the word constant, so it's consistency, it brings it all together beautifully.
Yes. And again, I strive to lead in this way. I think it is exactly the right balance. Again, starting out, my first word, persistent, like always present, persistent, very engaged. And you can be gentle. I consider myself someone that's very calm in chaotic times, calm under pressure, don't get really rattled. And I truly believe that being supportive to your team and there for them to collaborate, develop them, motivate them. That in itself is the essence of leadership. And then again, but you have to have the pressure. I mean, we have to have accountability for
Yep.
ourselves, for our team. So you wrap it all together. I think a sense of urgency is important. I do talk about that often with my team when I talk about following up and applying the pressure to hit our objectives, hit our goals. How do we move more quickly and get things done? So, yeah, it really engulfs me as a leader. Again, I read about this many years ago. It stuck with me, and I think about it often, and I love how it does balance out the leadership style.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Have you always been this way, Kim? I mean, you started at Saturn, so you probably started in a really good place there with the culture. But you also worked for General Motors. So did you have to adapt your style or talk to me about the leadership journey?
Yeah, okay. I did start at Saturn, and it was an amazing place to start. I was a co-op engineering student there, and then that became my first full-time job, believe it or not, in after sales. But I did travel around quite a bit within Saturn and General Motors outside of after sales. I was in manufacturing for a long period of time, injection molding, supply chain, body shop, industrial engineering, and then ultimately I was leading an engine plant before coming to Nissan. So a lot of time in manufacturing and supply chain, but I did start my career in after sales at Saturn when we were just standing up, our dealer network and our distribution center and everything about after sales. But the culture there was definitely unbelievable. The teamwork, the collaboration. I'm sure that partly still was part of my shaping as a leader and all the
Yeah.
rotations I got to do at a very early age. But migrating from Saturn to General Motors, that did not really change my style. I think I already had my style at that point, and that was as we've discussed, and I've just carried that through at GM and now at Nissan.
Yeah, I love that. Now, you've looked at the 21 traits of authentic leadership, and there's a lot in there. It's 21 traits. What resonated with you the most, Kim?
Well, I have read through those a couple times, maybe more, because I knew that we would be speaking about this. And I just want to say, what a great list that you've
Thank
compiled
you.
there from all your conversations and interviews. And I love reading the insights, the examples that you provided. So well done. Let me just start by
Thank you.
saying that. But as I read through those, gosh, I aspire for all of those traits. But I did narrow it down first to five. That I thought,
Oh,
okay, that
good.
was my first approach. Let's take it to
Yep.
five, and then I'm still going
Yep.
to pick one because I know Jan's going to insist that I pick one. But as I narrowed it down to five, I picked resilience, supportive, energy, ownership, and integrity. That's what I picked. And I said, these are me in many ways, definitely
Yeah.
things, areas that I aspire to achieve as a leader. But then it was all said and done. This may surprise you, but I picked energy. And I did that because I think positive energy carries over and enables a lot of those traits. And I do consider myself an energetic person, positive, I'm optimistic, I'm always on, I'm always engaged. Um, and I'm the kind of person that, I can flip the script, change the room, get people going in the right direction, even maybe in tough times, chaotic times, with positive energy. So just that person looking for the opportunity that's there and always finding the good in something. So that's why I picked energy. But again, I could resonate with a lot of those in many ways, and I aspire to be the kind of leader that embodies all 21. I know I'm not there yet, but that's what I picked, the positive energy.
It's funny, Kim, because nobody's ever asked me what my pick is. But if
Please,
I had to pick, I would energy. I
really?
think because when I was doing the branding for my business, was asking people, when you think of me, what do you think of? What comes to mind, right? And energy is the thing that comes out time and time and time again, whether I was in my corporate career in the tier one space or in my new business. So, well, I guess it's not so new now. It's probably 8 years old, right? It still feels new sometimes. So energy, and I agree with you. And you use the term you said, flip the script. And so often, when you've got that right energy, you can do anything. You can get a group of people on board with you to do anything, whether it's dealing with a customer issue, a supply chain issue, no matter what it is. It's a strong leadership trait. And then the other one for me right behind that is vision, because I think so often leaders are too far down into the weeds And they get into that micromanagement mode because they feel that it's their job, that they're supposed to be seen as being in the weeds. And I disagree with that completely. There's a time when you got to drill down into the detail on a major issue. I get it. I'll give you that. But that cannot be your go-to style. Your go-to style has to be to empower your people and then keep your head. When I interviewed Stephen Covey, I said, you got to raise your gaze and get out of the weeds. And he was, oh, I love that. Raise the gaze. Yeah, you do. As leaders, you got to keep your finger on what's happening in the business day to day. Of course you do. You got to know, but you better be looking forward. And if you can do all of that with the right positive energy, oof, that's powerful.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Raise the gaze.
Raise the gaze. Okay, I have a question for you about aftermarket. I say aftermarket because I come from the tier one space. After sales is the OEM lingo, right?
Right.
Throughout all my career, a lot of it's in purchasing and supply chain, but a little bit of sales and program management. After sales has always been an afterthought. It was the thing that nobody really wanted to pay any attention to. Whether it was service or pure aftermarket, whatever it was, nobody ever wanted to pay attention to it because the volumes were low. And even though the margins were high, the volumes were low and it was, and we're a production facility. I want to make 30 of those widgets. And it really didn't get a lot of attention and a lot of love. So why is that, Kim? Why do people have this feeling? Obviously you don't, but why is it that this sense out there that it's just not that important? And then why is it so important at Nissan? Give us both sides of that.
I think the reason many people think it's not that important or considered an afterthought is because they simply don't understand. They don't understand the complexities of it. They don't understand how it contributes to brand loyalty, profitability for dealerships and the OEs, how important it is to truly that life cycle of the customer and that customer for life experience that we all strive for. I think it's a lack of understanding and a lack of appreciation. Maybe they've never spent any time in after sales or never taken the time to really connect with after sales people to learn more. Because once someone does understand enough about the business and how it drives future business, then all of a sudden everybody's all in. So a lot of what I do within our company and externally and within dealerships is explain the importance of after sales, what it can do to your business, what it can do to our business. Here's an interesting data point. A vehicle owner that services with their dealership is 3 times more likely to purchase their next vehicle from that dealership. Think about that. Think about the importance of servicing with the dealership, how important that is to brand loyalty. Because my role is driving brand loyalty through positive ownership experiences and then keeping that customer for life. So they come back and drive future sales. They'll buy another new car or truck or SUV from us. So when someone really understands that service retention, servicing with the dealer, buying the OE parts and accessories, how much more likely that customer is to buy their next vehicle from that dealer, meaning that OE, all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, this is really important, right? Because this fuels our future. This fuels the next vehicle sale. I don't have to conquest that customer. I don't have to spend a bunch of marketing dollars. I just take care of them in the service lane with genuine parts and a great service experience. So that's the connection I think individuals must make to all of a sudden see, oh, this is definitely not an afterthought. This is mainstream, critically important to our success, our profitability, our customer experience, and our future growth for new car sales. So that's what I would say. So I spend a lot of time advocating for after sales, as you'd expect me to flip
Yes.
that script, to flip that mindset. And I think I've converted some people along the way.
You have to look at it differently, right? You have to look at it through the customer lens and not from the manufacturing lens of, oh, here's a small number of parts. I got to make them. It's a pain in the neck. I don't want to do it. It's a totally different view. But when you look at it from a, no, this is part of the customer journey, and then this will contribute to additional sales which means more volume, which means more money, which means more jobs. I mean, and on and on and on. But connecting those dots, it's not so easy, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not. But again, I think the connection to the future sales and longevity and growing the share of the company, that's easy to sit down with someone internally. And again, the customer experience you mentioned, the journey. I mean, that's really what it's all about, right? Keeping the customer loyal to us, on the journey with us, buying our products. And the sales team at a dealership, I mean, they sell the first vehicle, but really it's their fixed operations team, right, in the service
Yeah.
lane that's keeping that customer for life and selling the next vehicle. And it's not just service, it's repairs. It could be warranty work, it could be purchasing accessories, subscriptions, whatever. All the things we do to interact and stay in touch with that customer are critically important. But again, you started by saying it sometimes can be seen that way, but I do think we have an awareness problem. And so I'm out to solve that problem, as well as a lot of other after sales professionals knowing the importance to really the future business.
How big is your team, Kim,
Oh, goodness, it's a big team.
roughly?
1,600 people.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
responsible for after sales for the Americas. So from Canada to US to Mexico down to South America. A lot of geography, big team, awesome people. I enjoy it.
And I can tell you're not one to show off, about your accomplishments. I could tell that. You're humble, you're all about the team. But I'm going to probe you, Kim, just a little bit. Give me 2 or 3 events or things that have happened in your career that you would consider significant accomplishments.
You ask about the team, and I think one significant accomplishment is how I've brought After Sales Americas together as one team. Starting with my work in supply chain, after sales
Yeah.
supply chain is where I started my work, and I've continued it as VP of after sales. It's a large team, like you said, and bringing the team together to drive synergies, share best practices, drive efficiencies. I'm really proud of what I've been able to do there because you got different cultures, you got different players. We don't always have a chance to be together in person. So a lot of this is done virtually, but I've managed to successfully bring together the leadership and those in their teams together into truly one team across the Americas. So, we were one staff or one leadership team, common strategies, common goals. And again, the results show it, right? The results show how we've been able to implement common systems, how we've been able to go to market faster in certain cases because we have common processes, how we've optimized our logistics and supply chain in a big way. So I am personally proud of the work that I've led there. It's taken all of us for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of that achievement, and I know it's made us better. And there's still more opportunity. There's more opportunity to be had as a result of the cohesiveness we have across the region.
Now, I'm going to have to peel that back a little bit because there's leaders out there, they're listening to this podcast, and they all want that. Particularly those with really large teams with the complexities of language, of region, of different functions within a function. Having to bring that all together is challenging. I know, and certainly my career was nowhere near the scale of yours, but still very, very challenging to do that. How, Kim? How do you make that happen? Just give us a little bit of the Kim Less secret, just a tiny peek of it. What is it?
Well, I think it's persistence,
Yeah.
just setting the goal that you have for yourself and being persistent and relentless to go after it. And then on top of that, it's a relationship business. Everything's about relationships. So going down this path meant forming relationships with people from different cultures, different markets, getting to know them better, getting to know me, building trust and mutual respect, very important. And I have traveled a lot in my career. So, given every chance, I go to the markets. I bring us together. I go to their place and learn and meet the staff. And so, these kind of things just over time, right, with that persistence, with the relationship building, building the trust, getting the results over time. And then you get more and more buy in, more and
Yeah.
more support. And then it just manifests itself into something really, really good. But I think that's the simple answer, perhaps, to how I brought us here.
You just articulated it, but we all know in reality that's very hard to do, and it requires a personal commitment and a
Right.
lot of travel. And you have to say, I am going to focus a certain amount of time, I would say almost every day, to this. It has to become a part of who you are as a leader if you're going to make that happen. So often I've seen leaders that want that one team, and they may have a small group of people that they decide what that's supposed to look like, right? But it's a small group of people. And then they maybe have a webinar or a call or something, and they say, okay, this is it. This is what it's going to look like. And then they get mad and frustrated because it didn't work. Well, if you think that sitting in an office with a couple of your buddies, drafting this thing out and then zapping it out on the airwaves or on the internet is the way to make this happen, you are sadly mistaken. But I've seen it time and time again. But it takes time and commitment. And as you say, it's that persistence. But what I'm hearing you say, that to get the success of not only one team working together, but also the success, the business line success, and the results that hit the bottom line of the business that contribute to the success of the business, to have all of that, you have got to be all in.
Absolutely. You've got to be all in. And it's part of my daily routine. My daily routine includes obviously lots of meetings and touch points and again, travel, but I'm scaling my time across the markets and I'm making sure that I'm touching base with each market over the course of the week. Again, not to micromanage, I'm definitely an empowering person, and I can't. It's too big a team to even think about getting too much in the weeds until necessary. But I scale my time. I have the touch points. We have a common staff meeting where we all come together a couple times a month. So it's just built in now where I'm keeping my eye on all the markets. They're reaching out to me. We're collaborating. We're solving problems together. We're getting stronger together. So it's really taken hold now. But again, there's still opportunity. There's still opportunity out there to further optimize and synergize across the full region.
Well, and you need a strong team now, as we all know. The industry is going through massive transformation, but the OEMs are going through an incredible amount of transformation. And it's not just about the technology, it is about the culture that goes along with the technology. And Nissan is going through a massive period of transformation in its own right. How do you lead through a time like this, Kim?
I think you lead through it with confidence. You lead through it with transparency.
Yeah.
And we talked about just resilience earlier, staying calm under pressure, being a role model. I mean, all these things. I have an open door policy. I try to be open to my team to talk one on one, small groups, big groups. I think when it's challenging, you want to be accessible, you want to be available. Uh, you want to, again, lead with confidence, but also be clear about the challenges and paint the roadmap, show the vision, share the vision. And as those challenges start to reduce, and that just builds more confidence in the total plan.
Have you ever had to change or modify the vision or the plan along the way, somewhere along the line?
I'm sure I have, yeah. The first things that comes to mind, this goes back a few years, but during the pandemic, we had a vision for how we were going to navigate through the pandemic, and we had to shift multiple times. I think most leaders can say that no matter where they were sitting at the time, what team they were leading, what they're responsible for. But yeah, it was a difficult time for all of us, but we were kind of all over the road there for a while, right? We thought we had this plan, this vision for how we're going to continue to work through the dealerships, how we're going to work in our distribution centers, how we're going to work from a team perspective and continue to grow the business in the midst of the pandemic. But boy, did we have to pivot time after time after time. And we got through it. We kept people safe, kept cars on the road with parts and service. We took care of the team and I think we came out stronger in the end. I think we came out much stronger on the other side of that as a team and as an organization.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that question is so often leaders struggle with admitting that they need to change something or something isn't right, or that they've even made a mistake. Have you done that?
Absolutely. I probably did it earlier today. I don't hesitate to do that because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, right? And I'm the kind of person that I'm going to step up and say, that's on me, right?
Yeah.
That's on me. I'm going to think differently next time. And I encourage my team to call me out. Like, I want to be challenged. I want to be challenged as a leader, and no reason not to speak up and say, let's rethink this. I'm not sure that's the right path. Let's try something different. So I'm all about that.
How do you create that safe space, Kim? Because at the end of the day, you control their paychecks. I mean, you do. But how do you make them feel safe so that they can challenge you?
Well, I think that comes with building trust and building relationships. Maybe initially someone new to my team, if they don't know me, maybe haven't heard much about me, that may not be the case day one, right? But I think in time, with any relationship, it's just cultivating that trust, that mutual respect. It's being able to demonstrate to someone that, look, you can trust me. Something confidential, I'm going to keep it that way, right? Sensitive information, I'm going to keep it that way. Like it's building trust. I keep going back to that. But if you have a relationship built on trust and integrity, that creates a safe space.
Yes, it
And
does.
and that's what I strive for.
And when you have trust, have you read the book by Stephen Covey, The Speed of Trust?
Actually, I have some time ago, but I have.
I've referred back to it quite often because when people think of trust, they think of something that's emotional, right? And it's soft and it's not really tangible. But he says when you have trust, speed goes up and cost comes down. And it's true. And you have to really think about some examples behind that. And when I have my leadership workshops, I always give some examples so people can really understand the point. But it's so true. If we don't have trust with our own people, with each other, how are we going to evolve this industry where we are going to have to be more agile and make decisions much faster? The idea of working in silos that we've done in this industry for decades, that's gone. That's totally gone. So we need to figure out how to trust each other, how to empower people, how to make decisions together quickly so that we can pivot and adjust and adapt and move forward at lightning
Right.
speed like we've never experienced before. And we're not going to do that without trust. But yet there's still the naysayers out there that think that it's just, oh, yeah, it's just one of those nice to have things. No, no, no. No, no, no. What does Covey say? It's an economic imperative, I think is what he says.
Indeed. Right. So I would just say that in our space, we talk about this. There's no need to validate data or information multiple times. That's a form of trust as well, right? Trust,
Yes,
like you said, the function next to you, trusting your team, trusting your customer. But once you get that foundation in place with data analysis, with systems, with relationships, there's no need for multiple validations. And that speed, that allows you to move much
exactly.
quicker through decision making, through approvals, that speed. So that's something at Nissan Infinity we are focused on. We're very much focused on moving faster, making quicker decisions, getting vehicles to the market faster, marketing campaigns launched quicker, projects moving quicker. And another way that we're doing that is through simplification.
Mm.
So simplification can be an enabler to speed. And these are two things at Nissan we're heavily focused on right now: speed, which you mentioned
Yep.
from the Covey example, as well as we're focused on simplification. And the reason that can be an enabler is if you take complexity out of your programs, your initiatives, your way of work, and get laser focused on those that are really important to really moving the needle, right? You can go faster. And so that's a journey we're on, and we're starting to get a lot of traction there. I'll give you a great example. I guess it was 6 months ago, earlier this year, we brought our dealer advisory board in, like we do most every quarter. And we dedicated the majority of that particular meeting with our dealer advisory board to simplification. So we brought in like 60 dealer facing programs, 60, listed them out. And they were all good programs. Okay. They all had merit, but we said, this is a lot. And we want to get our team and our resources, to better support our dealers. We want to get more focused. So we're thinking about maybe we're going to make some changes here. We want your input. So let's talk about it. So we had this great debate with our dealer advisory board on these 60 dealer facing programs, challenged each other. In the end, about a third of those we eliminated. Another third we simplified, and the other third we left as they are.
Wow.
And so it was quite an endeavor. But reflecting back on that, what a great exercise. We're doing that in other areas of the business now, by the way. So taking out complexity, getting really focused on what matters most to us, which is selling cars, parts, accessories, keeping customers on that journey with us, growing our business. So again, simplification can be an enabler to speed. We're taking that approach. It's working. So we're going to keep going down that path because I think to really be out in front in our industry right now, you've got to go faster.
You have to go faster and you have to kill complacency because many of us are complacent. We've been in this industry a long time. We've always done it this way. It's worked really well. That's the reason the culture and the leadership style is the reason why many CEOs and senior leaders are in their roles today. So why would they possibly change? But if we don't start questioning not only the technology, but what we do, why we do it, taking out the complexity, what can we do to increase speed? We've got to constantly keep asking those questions and getting answers and taking action. And it sounds like you're absolutely doing that, which I'd love to hear. But now here's the fun part of our discussion. I get to take you into the personal realm and I can ask you anything. You ready?
Okay, let's give it a go.
What's the first thing you do when you walk in the office?
One of the very first things I do is get a Coke Zero.
Oh, you're a Coke Zero person.
I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
And so Coke Zero is kind of my form of maybe it's that caffeine burst or whatever. But yeah, one of the first things I do after I put my things down or whatever, I get a Coke Zero.
Coke Zero. Okay, that's a good one. Now, when you get up in the morning and we all sort of get our heads straight for the day,
Yeah.
what's the first thing you do in the morning when you get up? You get out of bed. What's the very first thing you do?
Well, the first things for me are my faith
Okay.
and my family. So I'm getting my head around my faith, my family, reflecting on that. That's how I start my day. And that just keeps me centered, as a person and a professional. So
Yeah.
that's where my head goes first.
Yeah. I love that. What do you do for fun?
Well, I've got a lot of family in the area. I spend a lot of time with my family, siblings, nieces, nephews, my mom. Love to be outdoors. My husband and I love to travel, sporting events, just fun, new places. When I think about just relaxing, though, it's anything outdoors. I love the sun. I love the breeze. I love a good sunset outdoors.
Ah, how
Those
nice.
things are relaxing for me. That's how I spend my personal time.
Favorite podcast?
Yours?
Well, second favorite podcast.
Oh, wow. Here lately, the car dealership guy.
Oh, yes. Okay. What do you like to binge on Netflix?
Ooh, here lately, I've been watching, this is not a new one, but a Scandal.
Oh, Scandal. Yes.
Scandal. And
Yes.
before
Yes.
that, it
Yes.
was Suits.
Yes. Scandal with Kerry Washington, right?
Yes. You like it?
Yes.
Have you
I've
seen
watched
all
it.
the episodes?
Absolutely every single one of them.
Yeah, so I'm not done yet. I think I'm on like season 4, but you can't watch just one episode.
No, I mean, Netflix is a curse. It's a curse of my life. It really is. Because I tend to have it on in the background sometimes when I have my laptop on my lap sitting in the chair. It's not great. But I watch British soaps because, I'm
Okay.
Welsh and I grew up with these British soaps that are still running when I lived in the UK as a kid. And I still watch them because they're still on. I can get them on Prime.
Yeah,
It's my little piece of home. But we all have our little guilty pleasures that we like.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's you got to relax. Leaders have to pause. They have to learn to press that pause button because so often, particularly in automotive, there's this idea that if you're in a senior leadership role, that you're on 24/7. And okay, so you are, but you have to find that balance yourself. It's up to you. It's your life and your schedule, and you have to find it. And you have to do it without fear of judgment from other people on the team, on your team. And I think a lot of people, particularly women, struggle with that. I can't tell you how many women I've talked to, and they clearly have the capability to be in a VP spot. And they say, oh, yeah, but I don't want that job. Well, what? Okay. What does that mean, that job? What do you mean, that job? Well, oh, but they have to work all the time and travel all the time. I said, no, they don't. It's your life, your schedule. You figure out how to meet the objectives of the business, of the department, whatever you're responsible for, and have a family and have a life. It's up to you. What do you say to that, Kim?
Well, I fully agree with how you phrase that. And I do a lot of the same mentoring and coaching with young women. Early in my career, and this is when our children were young, we have twins. When they were young, this is when I struggled with it the most, right? I didn't have that confidence yet to draw the line on
Yeah.
my calendar and say, no, I must leave at this time, or block out time to actually leave the plant or the office and go to their school for an event. I was a little hesitant to do that, and I missed out. And as years went by, I got more and more confident. And I had some good mentoring too that said just what you said. It is okay to do that. It's more than
Yes.
okay to do that. You must do that. It doesn't mean you're not going to still meet your objectives of your job. You're not going to be any less of a leader to your team, but you're going to have some flexibility to be able to also draw some lines. I tell people now, own your calendar. Are there sometimes some non-negotiables? Yes, yes, there are. However, for the most part, we can own our calendar, and our leaders will respect the fact that because we're all people, there's more than work, and we do need those other things in our life, whether it's our children, our parents, our hobbies, our spouses. I mean, all these things to be our best, really, right? To be our best at work, we've got to take some time for those things. But yeah, I struggled with this earlier in my career when our children were young. But fortunately, before they got too far along in school and so forth, I got a better grasp on it. I
Yeah.
gained that confidence and started drawing those lines. And it was one of the best adjustments I ever made. So yes, I do a lot of mentoring. And anytime I'm talking to, like you said, young women in particular, but young men as well, with children or just other outside interests that everyone has for their own be your best at work and mental well-being. Own your calendar, draw those lines, set the boundaries.
I couldn't agree with you more. It took me a while to get there too. But when I did, it's very empowering. And
Yes,
really, people don't notice. It's like, because a lot of it is in your head anyway.
so true.
But I agree with you, Kim. Own your calendar. Well, Kim, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I finally get to talk to you. And thank you for sharing all of your insights with us. And I wish you much continued success at Nissan and wherever life takes you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Pleasure to meet you and be part of your podcast. That's much respected. Thanks for this opportunity. Take care.